My greetings to all the learned learners. Today we'll discuss Elegy Written in a Country Churchyard, written by Thomas Gray. Elegy Written in a Country Churchyard is the British writer Thomas Gray's most famous poem, which was published in 1751. The poem speaker calmly mulls over death while standing in a rural graveyard in the evening. Taking stock of the graves, he reflects that yet death comes for everyone in the end, and notes that the elaborate tombs of the rich won't bring their occupants back from the dead. He also commemorates the common folk buried in the churchyard by imaging the lives they might have lived had they been born into the better circumstances, and consider the benefits of anonymity. The poem ends with his own imagined epitaph. The church's evening bell signals that the day is ending. The mooing cows travel slowly across the grass, and a tired farmer trudges home, leaving the world and I are together in the darkness. Now the land around me is glowing in the sunset, but also fading away. I look at it. There is a serious stillness hanging in the air, apart from the buzz of a flying beetle and the tinkling of the sheep's bells, which is like their bedtime music. The air is still apart from the tower over there, covered with ivy, where a sad owl is complaining to the moon about anything that, wandering around her secret nest in the tower, disturbs her long standing, lonely rule over the area. Underneath those burly elm trees and the shade of the yew tree, there are mounds of moldy dirt, each laying in a narrow room forever. The uneducated founders of this tiny village sleep. The sound of the scented breeze of morning, the swallow singing in a shed made of straw, the rooster's sharp cry, or the echoes of a hunter's horn, these sounds will no longer wake the dead from their humble resting places, he says. And the fireplace will no longer burn brightly for these dead people, nor will their busy wives work in the evening to take care of them. He's imagining about the dead people that all he could do. Their children no longer will run over to celebrate when their father has come home from work for the evening, or climb on his lap to be the first to get a kiss. When they were alive, these people often harvested crops with their farm implements. They often plowed up difficult ground. How cheerfully they drove their farm animals over the field as they plowed. How confidently they chopped down the trees, which seems to which seems to bow as they fell beneath the strokes of the axe. Don't let ideas about ambition push you to make fun of the useful work these country folk did. Don't make fun of their plain and simple joys, their unknown lives. Don't let feelings of superiority make you smile scornfully at the short and simple biographies of these poor people. The bragging implied by a rich family's coat of arms, the frills and traditions of the powerful, all the things that beauty and wealth can give someone, death waits for all these things. Even the most glorious lives still end in death. And you proud people, don't blame the poor. If no memorials are erected on their graves or ornaments that outline their achievements in life, or if they don't have a tomb with a long hallway and vaulted ceiling illustrated with their accomplishments, echoing with the sounds of mourners singing the praises of death? Can an urn decorated with events from the dead person's life or a lifelike sculpture of their head call the dead person's breath back into their body? He inquires. Can honor bring their decaying body back to life? He doubts. Can flattery convince death not come from someone? Maybe in this unkempt patch of ground is buried someone who was once passionately filled with heavenly fire. Maybe someone who is buried here who could have ruled an empire or brought music and poetry to new heights. But they couldn't read or get an education, meaning they were never able to learn about history. Cold poverty held back their inspiration and frozen the creative part of their mind. Many germs would have been there. Many gems that give off the most beautiful light are buried in dark, unexplored. They are buried in the unexplored caves in the ocean. Many flowers bloom unseen by anyone, wasting their beauty and scent on a deserted place. Some villager here could have been like a politician, John Hampden, who fought for the people's right against an authoritarian king, except on a much smaller scale, fearlessly standing up to the landlord who owned the fields he worked. Someone here might have been a silent, fameless John Milton, the renowned Renaissance poet who wrote Paradise Lost because he never learned to write. Someone could have been like the English dictator Oliver Cromwell, but because he was poor and powerless and never had the chance to ruthlessly kill all the English people that Cromwell did, the ability to have the Senate applaud you, the ability to scoff at the dangers of suffering and defeat, the chance to spread wealth throughout a happy country, the chance to live a life so influential that one's biography is reflected in an entire nation. All these things were prevented by these people's poverty. Not only did poverty prevent them from developing their talents, but also prevented them from committing any atrocities. It prevented them from killing countless people in order to gain power and the process giving up on any sense of human rights. So, the positive side of poverty is being described. Poverty means that these people never had to hide their guilt after committing such acts, repressing their own shame. They never had to honor the rich and proud as if honoring gods with poetry. Far away from the crazed, immoral conflicts of the rich and powerful, these poor people only had simple, serious desires. In this calm and isolated valley of life, they struck to their own quiet ways. Yet, to protect even these poor people's bonds from total disrespect, a meager memorial has been built nearby. It is poorly written rhymes and a poorly made sculpture, but it still makes passing visitors sigh. These people's names and the years they were alive, all carved by someone who was illiterate, stand in place of fame and lengthy commemoration. Many quotes from the Bible are scattered around the graveyard, quotes that teach unrefined yet good hearted people how to die. After all, what kind of person, knowing full well they had been forgotten after the death, ever gave up this unpleasant and troublesome life? Ever left the warm areas of a happy day without looking back and wanting to stay a little longer? A dying person relies on the heart of some close friend leaning against their chest. They need that person to shed some reverent tears as they die. Even from the tomb, nature cries out. Even in our dead bodies, the habitual passions of the poor still burn. You have been thinking about those who died anonymously, have been telling their unpretentious story in this poem. If by chance and because of lonely thoughts, someone similar to you ask about what happened to you, maybe luckily enough, some old country person will answer them. We saw him at sunrise a lot, his quick footsteps sweeping the dew off the grass as he went to see the sun from the town's higher fields. Or there, at the base of that swaying beech tree, with old gnarled roots and high tangled branches, he would lay down and noon and stretch out his tired body, gazing into the nearby brook. Close to that forest over there, smiling as if with disapproval, talking to himself about his own stubborn fantasies, he would explore, sometimes moping sad and pale like a miserable person, other times gone crazy with worry, disturbed by unacquitted love. One morning, I didn't see him on his usual hill near the rough fields and his favorite tree. Another morning came, and I didn't see him by the stream or field or forest. The third morning, the funeral songs and a sad procession. We saw him carried slowly along the path of the church. Go up and read, since you can read, the poem carved on the gravestone under that old gnarled tree. And the poem ends here and then goes on with the speaker's epitaph. The epitaph describes the resting. He says here he is resting his head in the dirt lies a young man that had neither wealth nor fame. He had no education because he was born to a common people. His life was defined by sadness. Even so, he had great gifts and earnest mind. He gave all he had to his misery, which was a single tear. In return, heaven gave him the only thing he had never wanted, a friend. And then he says, don't try anymore to talk about his strengths and gifts or to bring his weakness back from dead. And what the people are supposed to do after his death about him is all about the epitaph. That is the end of the poem. Thank you. Hope you have enjoyed.